Hi, my name is Taha and I'll be presenting Twinduction, which is a baseline sample and data collection study for newly registered twin research volunteers. So the Twins UK cohort was set up in 1992 by Tim Spector, a professor of genetic epidemiology at King's College. It's a major epidemiology resource with longitudinal deep genomic and phenomic data from over 14,500 adult twins from the UK, many of whom are highly engaged and recallable. So this unique twin group has been studied for years in detail, with thousands of twins undergoing comprehensive genetic analysis as well as detailed gut microbiome profiling. Comparing genetically identical twins with non-identical twins enables researchers to separate the effects of genes from environmental factors such as lifestyle, diet, and microbiome. On average, 200 new twins sign up every year. However, following the outbreak of COVID-19 and the media coverage of Twins UK, spearheaded by the Zoe COVID-19 app, a partnership with Twins UK, around 800 twins registered their interest to sign up. Pre-pandemic, twins were invited to clinical visits at St Thomas's Hospital for all clinical measurements, questionnaire data, and biological samples as part of the Twins UK Biobank. However, since the introduction of COVID restrictions, we incorporated strategies to cope with the pandemic whilst being cognizant of government guidelines. This led to developing postal sample collection and data digitization initiatives. Moving on to the impact of COVID-19 on longitudinal studies, in this case Twins UK. So the pandemic presented both opportunities and challenges to research. The challenges primarily being clinical visits coming to a halt, as these face-to-face visits were essential for biological sample and data collection. We had to redesign studies and rethink participant engagement. This meant substituting face-to-face visits with remote and digital methods, which leads us onto new forms of data collection. With the continual advances in technology of collection and analysis of biological samples and data, we managed to develop and refine remote collection of biological samples. Now, this was based on a project I set up before the pandemic in 2018 called Keeping Together. This was first run as a pilot, and we are now repurposing and scaling up for new twins. It was used as the blueprint for all remote collection, even outside of our cohort, as we had a head start before the pandemic. And this project was previously presented at the same conference last year. We also shift to digital domains to capture and generate data. The previous method of new twin registrations used to be very clunky and outdated. It used email forms and paper consent. So this new digitized method is much more streamlined, and part of the pandemic was to move everything online anyway. This brings me to Twinduction, which is the project name for the onboarding process of new twins. We launched an online portal for new twins to register their details and capture baseline information and consent. We digitized the registration process and the consenting process. So once a twin pair have completed their registrations, they emailed a copy of the study information sheet and consent. They then received welcome boxes. These packs include sample collection kits for fecal, urine, saliva, and blood, with instruction leaflets detailing how to collect the samples, with a return prepaid envelope to post back to the lab, as you can see here. Participants were also provided with an email link to carry out an online cognitive assessment and core questionnaires on web-based software, Portrix and RedCap. Samples are then analysed and stored in the Twins UK Biobank. The data will then be used for further research into common diseases and traits, and will be accessible to independent researchers and collaborators. So the structure and rationale for the study paves the way for clinical studies moving forward in this post-pandemic world. So now I'd like to expand on how and what we specifically managed to obtain remotely. Firstly, the biomarkers for biological samples included two types of fecal, one in a zymo suspension and another raw. Also, saliva and urine for metabolites and microbiome, blood for plasma and genomic DNA, and then serology for antibody and immune biomarkers. Our lab team researched and tested the extraction process for minuscule amounts for column-based extractions and trialed and tested leak-proof, secure return packaging. We also carried out sample assays and determined that they were stable for 24 hours once chilled. Therefore, participants were instructed to collect and post all samples in a prepaid special next-day delivery envelope to be returned to the Department of Twin Research Lab, where they were processed using standard lab protocols. And then for data collection. Baseline information and digital consent was obtained through RedCap, a web-based application and research tool used to collect data. Lifestyle and health online questionnaires was collected on Qualtrics, which is a cloud-based platform for creating and distributing web-based surveys. We also measured cognitive function using tests on Cambridge Cognition's web-based software. Now, just to discuss the good and the bad of remote collection. So the benefits. Participants may be drawn from a wider geographical and social field, i.e. it's not only restricted to UK residents, and participants don't have to take time off work to take part in studies. There's also greater flexibility in when and where the research takes place. Multimodal software allows participants to provide data when it suits them. We are able to almost replicate a baseline visit by obtaining a very detailed health questionnaire and a set of samples to add to a biobank, so they can be recallable to studies at a cost of £25 per twin for the postal kits and the online processes. This is significantly cheaper than bringing a twin in nationally to London for the same tests. This change was also not a deviation from the Twins UK Biobank collection methods, governance, policy, or current protocol, so no amendments were needed to ethics. And then just to touch on the limitations. So maintaining engagement could be difficult as it's not face-to-face. So to aid compliance, twins will be sent email and text reminders. In other twin studies, we have also incorporated virtual visits with Zoom. Remote collection also relies on access to digital technology and a reliable internet connection. Therefore, it could be harder to access the vulnerable and marginalised groups who don't have access to or experience with devices and software. To counteract this, we recognise this information was important, so we developed a strategy of delivering phone calls to cover this elderly group, again as part of the project's Keeping Together. Also, as part of the Twins UK shift and drive to move everything online, and because of the pandemic alone, a lot of our twins already have email addresses and have become more tech savvy. So hopefully this reduces sampling bias. And also because of the Zoe COVID app, twins have already joined and have been logging their symptoms on there. So since we've seen a movement to technology in our own cohort, we can envision a similar change will be seen in the general population. So with remote collection, there are issues of privacy and consent. So to ensure participant confidentiality and privacy, adherence to best practices and GDPR is required, which includes obtaining consent at sign-up, ensuring participants' anonymity, also allowing options to withdraw and handling data securely. So now some challenges that we face in the development stage of these kits. And these were, firstly, sourcing return bags for biological samples. As an extra measure to ensure they were returned the next day, we had to liaise with Royal Mail and use colour-coded return packaging to ensure it was processed quickly amongst the COVID delays. And there were also delays in procurement of supplies as there were supply chain shortages due to COVID and other factors. And then finally, just to summarise, we can say Twinduction provides an innovative, rapid and adaptive method for recruitment and data collection by using a remote-based testing method. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take some questions. End of recording.